We're rolling.
Welcome to the REI Rookies Podcast.
The Real Estate Investing Rookies Podcast, episode number 90, where we invite you to follow us on our journey towards financial freedom using the power of real estate. I'm Josh Koth.
And I'm Jack Haas.
And here at REI Rookies, we believe in a couple key principles. Number one, the best way to retain information is by teaching it to others. And number two, a rising tide lifts all boats. We're not competitors, we're a community. Let's get into some real estate investing.
Well,
hang on, Jack. You know what I was doing today?
What were you doing, Josh?
Grinding, buddy. Grinding all day, every day, 24/7, grinding all the time.
It's all about the hustle, isn't it?
The hustle. Nonstop.
Got to keep it. Got to 80 to 110 hours a week.
Otherwise, you're just not trying.
So, yeah, if you can't figure this out, we are taking a shot today at what the internet is referring to as struggle porn.
Yeah, it's basically a way of over-romanticizing the struggle of an entrepreneur or a self-employed person and over-prioritizing the struggle and hustle and grind and all these terms you always hear, and just really overemphasizing that as how important it is to your success, and that if there's evidence of that struggle and grind and you're putting that out publicly, then you must be successful, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of it, and there's a lot of very famous. We won't be calling anybody out here, but there's a lot of very famous podcasters who base their entire presence regarding this concept, pushing the concept of the hustle and the struggle. And if you're not working hard, you're not getting anywhere.
And it's funny because, I'm sure you see a lot of these guys in your Facebook timeline, and I got to give credit where credit's due. I saw this article on medium.com, and we'll link to this in the show notes, just talking all about struggle porn. And I think he kind of coined the term, and I thought it was interesting because, you hear like food porn, and it's like people just love to look at that kind of stuff, and they love to consume that content. And I'm kind of guilty of that too, because because we know mindset is everything, right? So it's all about being in the proper mindset and having the right amount of motivation and drive and persistence. And we know how key all those things are towards your success. And you start consuming all this self-help content, books, podcasts, Facebook material, YouTube, and you start to get overwhelmed by the glamorization of the struggle. And really, that shouldn't be the destination. That should just be something that you have to do, hopefully temporarily, to get you to your goal. But it shouldn't be the be-all, end-all, and the end where you end up 5-10 years later after you've built your business.
Yeah, and I think what people are mistaken here is the concept or they're confusing the concept of being busy equals being successful.
Yeah, exactly. And really the goal should be how many, in real estate investing, it's how much passive income do you have, or how much income are you generating through flips, or whatever your goal is as a real estate investor. Are you getting closer to that goal or achieving that goal? That's the measure of success, not how many hours you put in, right? Because we could put in hundreds of hours a week painting and replacing light switches and doing other things that aren't really going to move us towards our passive income goal. But we could say we're grinding, we're up at 3 a.m. painting again. And sometimes you do have to do that. Make no mistake, especially when you're starting a business. Sometimes it is a struggle, and most of the times it probably is for most people. But there's not a lot of, it's not very glamorous 5 years in to still be up at 3 a.m. painting. Hopefully you've built your business to the point where you can hire outsource those types of things, and you're concentrating on the highest dollar value activities, finding the next deal, negotiating, things like that, raising money. Whatever you determine in your particular business model to be the highest value activities, you should be doing that. And ultimately, even, outsource yourself out of those activities, right? I mean, we know, like from reading the E-Myth by Michael Gerber, the true measure of a business is, can you leave it for a month? And will it run? Will it operate without your involvement? And, sometimes you listen to podcasts and people that have been in the business for a while, and they'll sometimes repeatedly say, when I leave on vacation for 2 weeks, my business actually runs better because I'm not in there rocking the boat and coming up with all the crazy visionary ideas. My team is just executing on the things that I've taught them, and they're just consistently, persistently executing. And sometimes the owner's involvement really slows them down. That to me is the true measure of a successful business model. And while he's, sitting on the beach for 2 weeks, I wouldn't call that much of a struggle. But that's really what should be valued and glamorized, is the ability to step out of your business and have it still perform at a high level.
Yeah, so if you want a good representation of this, take a listen or to the book or read it, Mike Michalowicz, Clockwork. He also talks about this concept of being able to step out or retrieving or collecting some of your own time or time back again. A lot of this hustle and everything, in the end, you got to start to question what are you actually grinding on? I mean, that,
Easy.
What I mean by that is those activities that you're doing, we actually, for a long time, actually printed off a list of activities that we were going to tackle on a regular basis that were money-generating activities. A lot of the things that the struggle porn, quote-unquote, people are doing may be designing business cards for half of the day. They're busy, but are they busy on the right things?
Yeah, exactly. Mistaking busy for productive. That's totally true. And don't over glamorize, over fetishize, struggling, staying up late, putting hundreds and hundreds of hours into your business. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're moving your business in the right direction. You might be. There's been weeks where we've put tons of hours in, but hopefully it was all necessary. And especially when you're starting, like I said earlier, when you're beginning a business, you do have to trade your time is what you have the most of versus capital or other resources. So you do have to leverage that to begin with. And the goal should always be to reduce that amount that you're having to put in manually every day and every week. So don't glamorize the struggle too much.
So how could somebody avoid falling into this grinding pit?
I think you just have to be aware of, what you're consuming, right? Like if you get off on Gary Vee's content and all these other guys that are kind of at the helm of this kind of movement, you just have to really kind of watch what you're, you might get a nice release of endorphins and see a nice bump for your day consuming that, but don't let it. Everything has to be in balance, I would say. Just analyze your activities and say, is this just keeping me busy, or is this actually moving me in the direction I want my business to go?
And that's one of the activities that I think, and we're probably going to have another podcast down the road to talk a little bit about. And I guess I'm going to define it more of like when or what you need to know before you quit your day job. Mm-hmm. But the importance of that exercise is sit down and actually define your job, define your role, and all of the tasks that are going to be actually needed. And it's all about those money-generating activities again. And when you actually sit down and go through that exercise, define your job, what are you going to do on a daily basis if you're going to be an entrepreneur, I think that might help avoid the struggle porn.
Right, or just doing wasteful activities that just consume more of your time and feel like you're busy. Yeah, you want to always focus on income-producing activities, the highest and best use of your time. And another side benefit of sitting down and detailing, what you do and what you should be doing every day is that eventually you're creating a framework for someone who could step into that role, so that you can outsource yourself out of your business, or, chunks of your duties at a time can be outsourced to someone, and hopefully you can step aside and go on that vacation for a month and have your business operate at a high level without your involvement, that's all of our goals, I would hope.
Yeah, that was when I was growing up, and a term that I heard a lot was work smarter, not harder. But in this day and age, with the podcasters, YouTube, and everything, that seems to be reversing, where we are hearing more and more about it's all about the hustle, it's all about the grind, and it's time to maybe step back and take a look at what we're actually doing.
And there's a few cultural reasons for this too. I think, there's like a kind of a, and a lot of this is stereotypes and has nothing to do with reality probably, but you always hear about millennials and they just, they're entitled and they expect everything for nothing, and they aren't willing to put, and the stereotype is that they're not willing to put in the work, and they just expect something for nothing. So then that's kind of a backlash against that, is like, you need to be able to put in the time, you need to start at the bottom, work your way up, that kind of attitude. So it's kind of, the pendulum kind of swings back and forth. And I just think everything in balance, everything in moderation. No matter what you're doing, it should be the most productive thing that you can be doing. Because as a solopreneur or a two-man business like we are, there's only 80 hours a week that you can you can spend. So you need to make sure you're spending that in a productive manner. So I think culturally, some of that factors in, the backlash against the alleged millennial attitude. And I don't know how much of that is warranted. We'll have to see a few years down the road what the data bears out. And the other thing, and just to finish that point, the other thing is, like, especially up here in the upper Midwest, there's not much more that's glamorized than someone who's a hard worker, right? They put their head down, they work hard, like, my grandfather, my father, like that generation, there is not much higher praise than, oh yeah, boy, he did what it took. He put his head down and worked. And some like that is the most valuable thing you can do, or you can be, right? So that is kind of glamorized. Hard work is kind of glamorized. And really, if you just had a 9-to-5 job, not making very much per hour, how did that benefit you really? I mean, sure, you did what you had to do to support your family, and that is to be valued, obviously, and that's an honorable task. But is that really, as an entrepreneur, is that something to be glamorized? I wouldn't think so.
So, like we mentioned, it is a balancing act. Definitely, I've personally found a lot of value in listening to Gary Vee, Grant Cardone. I'll even throw in MF CEO. Mm-hmm. That project out there. But like we had mentioned, it is about the hustle. It is about the grind. But let's be purposeful about it.
Exactly. Always be moving towards your goals.
Well, with that, if you like what you're hearing and you found some value in what we've been producing, head over to patreon.com/REI Rookies.
If you have any thoughts or questions, shoot us an email at info@reirookies.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at REI Rookies. And if you like what you're hearing, head over to iTunes, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really helps other rookie investors out there find the show.
And remember, get off the bench
and get into the game. We'll see you next time. I gotta go grind 24/7, yo.
I don't like to tell a man what to do with his money, but if you ain't investing in property, then you're dumber than a dummy.
I'm not dumb. I'm smart.
Well, buy property. That's my advice.